Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:01. Welcome to the March 24th School Committee meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Grafton School Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by visiting the Zoom link found on the Grafton Public School website. This is also being recorded and it will be replayed on Grafton Public Television and on YouTube, I think as soon as tomorrow, but I will leave that up to them. So I already did, but I ask anybody to please mute themselves on their computer. And for tonight, we're suspending open comment, but please reach out to any member via our town email and we will address your concerns. It's the chair's discretion for public comment, and just for tonight, for my own comfort and just the strange new world, we're suspending, but we do always want to hear from you, and you're always welcome to reach out after and we can address your comments in our next meeting. So for my committee, we're going to need to take attendance and announce all the committee members and school officials on the call. So I'll do that right now. Laura Often, Chair of the Grafton School Committee. Jen Conley.
Jen Connolly here, co-chair, vice chair.
Vice, so I'd love it if you were co-chair. Melissa Maison, are you on? Okay, she's not here yet. Amy Marr.
I'm here.
Heather Riley.
Heather Riley here.
James Cummings.
I am here, Superintendent.
Tracy Kalo.
I'm here, Assistant Superintendent.
And Dan Gale. You're muted, Dan Gale.
I'm here, Director of Finance.
Thank you. We will need to take a roll call for all votes. As chair, I will act as the moderator, and I'm going to invite each member to comment or ask questions about each matter on the agenda. I'll give you each a turn, and then at the end, a chance for any follow-up comments. If you don't have any comments, you can just say no comment when I call your name. Don't feel obligated to speak. And before we officially kick off the meeting, I really wanted to take this moment to wish everyone in our community well. This is a trying time, and I've been so impressed with the way our Grafton community has come together, specifically the Grafton Public Schools. And from the bottom of my heart, I have so much appreciation to Jay, Tracy, the entire admin team, our teachers, staff, and everyone who has stepped up to basically reconfigure our education system in 1 week. We are all learning, adapting, and being flexible, and we're also showing our children exactly how to do that. So I also want to thank our Grafton families for their support, their understanding, and their flexibility during this time. I see that Melissa Maison joined in. Melissa, we just need to do a attendance, so can you say here?
Hi, Melissa Maison, I'm here.
Excellent, thank you. And then can you mute yourself? And we're going to take a roll call for every single vote because we're remote, and I'll give everybody a chance to speak after each agenda item. I think that's the most efficient way to do this. Also tonight, I'm going to make one minor addition to the agenda, which is just to add an update on the budget. And I'm going to turn it over to Jay Cummings to do that. Thank you, Jay.
Grace, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Second. Sorry, it's taking me a second.
It's fine. It's like we're really having our meeting because anytime we have to share something, there's always like
no kidding.
a break. I feel like we're home. And while we're waiting, oh my God, James and Tyler. James, we need to take attendance for you guys. So Tyler,
Here.
I apologize.
No worries, I'm here.
And James Dewar.
Here, James.
Thank you both. Oh my God, I tell you, I'm like running on like 80% today. Fair warning, Grafton.
Oh, you're doing a very good job delaying. I have a,
Are you having trouble sharing, Jay?
yeah, for some reason it's coming up with I shared earlier today, no problem.
Yeah.
Of course. Do you want to send it to me and see if I can share?
Yeah, let's try that. I'll email it to you right now.
All right. It's always bad when I have to fill time though, right? Like, anybody got any good jokes? Tyler, any good jokes?
I got nothing.
All right, Laura, I can fill some time because I want to give an enormous shout out to all the teachers because all I've been doing for the last week and a half is trying to prepare online courses. And I have to tell you, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I can't believe our teachers are able to do this for all the students, and I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Jay, did you send it to my?
Working on it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, Melissa. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, and I'm sure we will talk about it when we get to the remote learning, but yeah, not easy to be a teacher, for sure.
No.
No, I just had a conference today with an online education specialist who's been helping us. And she was saying that if you wanted to do this, you would spend years and millions of dollars preparing. And we don't have millions of dollars and we don't have years, but our people are still doing it. So it's pretty darned impressive.
All right, Laura, you should have it.
Okay. Do you want to just talk through it?
Yeah, if you put it up.
I know, I don't have it yet, though.
Oh.
We're really learning about our internet, too.
Yeah, kidding.
How much it can take.
Yeah, I guess summarize. How's it?
Or we can skip, okay, and we can move and go back to it.
Yeah, I can quickly go through
Okay.
it. If you happen to bring it up, so be it. I just wanted to bring the committee up to speed. Basically, again, it feels like we haven't met in about half a year. The last time we met, the school committee voted on a budget based on that anticipated increase of that 4.13. Total budget was just over 38 million. When we looked at that funding gap that we're faced with for FY21, about $645,000, and while FY21 is certainly a problem, that's and I can talk to that. The more concerning, even than FY21, is that in every following year, things are as bad or worse going forward. In terms of the FY21 budget, we had talked about meeting that or filling that gap of about 645,000 three different ways. We decided to increase our revolver account expenditures, where we decided to spend an additional 117,000 out of school choice revolving funds to cover operational costs. That will include a teacher at the high school and 3 paraprofessionals. So it's basically spending a little more than we'd like to out of revolvers. It included, the second piece was decreasing non-personnel expenditures. That included reducing supplies, technology, professional development, utilities, capital, and maintenance, all totaling about $106,000. And then the third part was personnel reductions. That's always the most challenging. Right off the bat, we took out 2 of the recommended positions for reinstatement. Those were the 2 curriculum coordinator positions that we reduced back in FY17. In total, that would be 114,000. And then you start talking, the next layer is actual people and needed positions. So that includes an elementary teaching position, That would be at first grade at North Grafton Elementary School. Without that position, we're going to have relatively high class sizes in first grade, 23, 24, and that's in March. So that number is going to be above 23 or 24 by the time the fall rolls around. A high school teaching position and a middle school teaching position. And then the fourth position being the assistant principal position over at the high school. So those are obviously huge losses for us. The total personnel, not counting the 2 positions that we were looking to reinstate for curriculum, that total is about 254,000. So in total, you may recall we got to about 591,000 in reductions. That leaves us a gap of 57,000. While we haven't decided exactly what the fees are going to look like, the thought was that after the vote to initiate fees next year, that we aim to cover that remaining gap of 57,000 through fees. Oh, there we go. You can keep on going.
What slide?
Just keep going forward. I'll tell you when. Yep, right there. That's good. Actually, go one back if you don't mind. Yeah, that's perfect. So you'll see the 3 buckets that I talked about totaling 591, leaving that 57,000. That's going to be captured through fees. We've yet to obviously vote on what those amounts would be, but that's about where we left off. I always bring up the fact that here it is in March. We have state funding, town funding, and this is pre-coronavirus, state funding variable, town funding, enrollment, and out-of-district tuitions and transportation, and then of course negotiations with our 4 different units. So we still have a lot of things at play, and that's without the gigantic variable of everything we've been dealing with for the last few weeks. You can keep going forward. We'll go down to 10. I think that's actually it on the budget piece. Obviously, I didn't cover it, but the school committee did meet with the finance committee and the select board, and a vote was taken to put forth an override in the spring. It was actually not set, but discussed as being on May 19th, I believe it was, to have a ballot vote. Obviously, it very much in flux. We have the town meeting and whether that will take place. And then obviously with that, an potential override vote where people would have to go to the ballot just a few days later. If that was to be pushed back, I was asked what I would recommend. Bottom line in my mind, if for whatever reason things worsen, we can't get to it in May, it gets pushed back to who knows when. Ideally, the entire gap would be covered. However, the town felt like that could be done, be it free cash, stabilization, what have you. If the full amount couldn't be captured, my Band-Aid solution would be, again, if we can't get there in terms of doing it in May or before FY21 begins, I would hope that the town would at least consider looking at those 4 positions, the total being, I think it was 254,000, that would prevent layoffs and ensure that our class sizes and programming would stay essentially the same as they are in FY20. But obviously that would just be my recommendation, something for the school committee to discuss, but in the end, it's going to be the select board that decides when and if we go forward in terms of having that ballot vote and what that number would be. But if I was asked for recommendations in terms of a Band-Aid solution or some kind of temporary fix, it would be something along those lines. And that's all I have on the budget.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go one by one through the committee to see if you have any questions for Jay. I'm going to start with Jen.
I was just wondering, I don't know if it's too early, but are we seeing it has nothing to do with that budget, just the overall budget with the coronavirus, what's going on? has there had an impact of any sort on our current budget?
Dan, feel free to jump in. It's too soon to even sort that out to some degree. I mean, every day we're dealing with kind of new variables. There's been a lot of meetings between the superintendents virtually to try to figure out the non-fiscal parts. We've also been meeting as superintendents and finance directors with the state to try to get a handle on those very pieces. If we do go back to normal, which we will at some point, but let's pretend that's all before the summer, this is thinking ahead to 21, but what do our summer services look like? We already have pretty extensive services in the summer. I could see a scenario whereby that's multiplied by a factor of 10 or more. We don't have monies encumbered for that. What does that look like? Just today it came up, talking Whitson's has been fantastic. We've got the food assistance program that Dan will talk about. If that ramps up further, at some point we're going to run out of food. We don't have unlimited food at the schools. It's all been condensed. We've been using that. Eventually we're going to run out. Do we just stop providing food to needy families, or do we go and purchase food? Those are, again, monies that certainly aren't encumbered in FY20. So I have many more questions than answers, and that's going to be a theme tonight.
I can say one thing about FY20. I don't think there'll be, I think there'll be some costs, but I think also there'll be some costs that we are not incurring just because we're not having school. So I think FY20, I think overall we won't have extra costs. We might actually have savings because we're not in school. But then I think FY21 is maybe a bigger issue with increased summer school costs, and then any other kind of extra services that we provide to kind of catch up. So.
Jen, any other questions? No? Good question. Next, we'll move on to Melissa. Melissa, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Laura. I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you. Amy?
No questions from me either.
Thank you. Heather?
I'm all set, thanks.
Tyler?
All set, thank you.
James?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. And just, I think my only comment to that would be is if the select board is looking to make a change, I would hope that we would get the TRICOM committee back together again so all three of us could be in the rooms and discuss what needs to be done. And I will reach out to Jennifer Thomas and Matthew Often after this meeting just to state that to them in case they aren't watching or don't get a chance to watch. So thank you for that update, Jay, we appreciate it. Our next, we're gonna go on to a update on the discussion related to our coronavirus situation. I think this is gonna be a tag team between Jay, Tracy, and Dan. So let me know when you need me to stop sharing my screen. Can you all still see it? I forgot halfway through and started like playing around. Excellent. So Jay, I think this is your first slide. Do you want to jump in, or are we starting with Tracy?
No, I can start us. I'm glad I put it in one.
Me too.
Go down one.
Okay. See if I don't know why it got smaller, but we'll post this on our website, right, too, of course, so everybody can see it after.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So are you on slide 11?
I am. Can you see it? Oh, no, I'm on slide 12.
Huh.
What are you on?
Yeah, for some reason, I'm not having a banner evening on tech. For some reason, I only see 10. But
Yeah, Laura, we see slide 10 also.
Oh, no. Okay, hold on. Gosh. All right. Okay. Oh, I know what. Okay. Can you see slide 11?
That helps.
That was user error right there.
I'm
Hi.
thrilled that was fixed. So the four main areas that we're going to focus on, we can talk about anything that anybody likes, where communication, and that basically as a district, these are the four things that right now we can control. Just about everything else, we're waiting on state support, guidance, etc. So communication and connections has kind of been our big theme, especially as we've started up with remote learning, trying to connect our staff to kids. That connection actually right now, in my mind, trumps the actual learning component. I've had a chance to kind of cover the district in many ways in terms of connecting with people and delivering Chromebooks, for example. So I've talked to families, and I think I have a pretty good sense of, as a district, the need for that kind of connection, to not lose that connection with our classrooms and our school buildings. Over the past week, with remote learning, we've seen a big increase in communication. It went from just basically coming from central office down to the principal level, and now to the teacher and staff level, and that's been fantastic. Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about the food assistance program and the great work you're doing there?
Sure, yeah. So last week, we served lunch Monday through Friday. And also we're delivering meals to anyone that can't get to the Millbury Street School from 11:30 to 12:30. This week we changed to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So on Monday, when they came on Monday this week, we gave them 2 lunches and 2 breakfasts, so they would be covered for Monday and Tuesday. And this is just to cut down on kind of the social distancing, like the, less interaction between the people making the food and the people coming to get the food. So we thought that would be safer. So that right now is our schedule: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11:30 to 12:30, drive around the back of the Millbury Street School, and then email me if you would like either home delivery or if you have any questions about the program.
Great, thanks, Dan. And again, Dan's been fantastic with this. Tony LeMay, we've had a number of volunteers, and some staff from Whitson's have been just unbelievable with this. In terms of the Chromebook distribution, all thanks for the success of that effort goes back to the technology department. They gathered all of our Chromebooks, they've labeled them, they've created directions on how to use them. They provide access to the tech team when people get stuck, if they don't know how to set it up, how to utilize it, what have you. We've delivered certainly over 100 Chromebooks all over Grafton. I've delivered, I don't know, maybe 25, and I might be the worst delivery person ever. I am all over the place and can't find anything, but we've been successful in getting them out to everybody. Everybody that's received them has been absolutely thrilled to get them, and all the feedback's been really, really positive.
Hey, can I ask a quick question? It's Melissa. What are we doing about internet access for people who need it?
Really nothing at this point. We do have, this has been a huge issue, well, one of the many huge issues that superintendents have been dealing with. As soon as things started to lock down, even a couple weeks ago, you may have seen that across the state, a lot of the internet providers came out with really low cost, sometimes even free access. The problem has been the actual implementation of that. We've had plenty of people say, we'd like to take advantage of that, and that's great. But then actually getting the companies to go out, make the connection, provide the router, do the actual work, if you think of it just in Grafton, that's overwhelming, I'm sure. If you looked at Worcester, for example, you can multiply that by thousands. So I think it sounds great. It's the right thing for the companies to do, but the actual, in practice, making it happen, across the state, there's been, what I've been told by other superintendents, nobody's seeing any real movement in that area. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it's a very real issue. We do have those Khajiit units that we've used in past years. The problem with those are basically mobile hotspots that we purchased so that when we, the thought was really when we went to one-to-one at the high school and needed that access, and people couldn't afford it, we couldn't afford to pay for it year after year for families, so we purchased these units. The problem is that, well, that the bandwidth needed basically 7 years ago was much smaller than it is now. Those units really can't handle the amount of bandwidth needed to support a few devices at once using them in a robust manner. So our hands are somewhat tied. I don't think our numbers are overwhelming in terms of those who don't have access, but it's certainly, even if it's one, that's a real issue. All right. Okay, I'll keep moving. Tracy is going to talk about our efforts 1 week into remote learning.
Laura, do you mind moving the slides forward?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. I was going to say right before we go to you, Tracy, maybe I'll just do a quick check to see if anybody else has any questions besides Melissa. Jen Conley? Do you have any questions?
All set, no comment.
Amy?
I'm all set, thanks.
Melissa, do you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Heather?
Jay, are you able to think about what percentage it is of students who might not have that internet access? I'm just curious.
We talked about doing some kind of survey, obviously doing a survey without the kids in school and easy access to parents. That's not, like, obviously you would do an internet or connectivity survey in hard copy, as opposed to if you email it and they don't have connectivity, you might not get a response. So we're working on it. We don't have a great fix right now, or a great way to get a handle on that.
Anything else, Heather? Okay. And Tyler?
All set.
James?
All set, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, guys. All right, so we're gonna move to Tracy.
Thank you. So I want to start with a big thank you to really the massive team effort that this learning experience has taken. I want to start really with the admin team, who have been really the epitome of collaboration and communication. They have done a nice job of coming together and talking through what makes sense to support students as they are home in terms of maintaining their learning. In addition to that, I cannot believe how the teaching staff has come together to put together activities that are choice-based, skill-based, purposeful, and engaging. I am absolutely floored by what has occurred. So I just want to speak basically to what was the purpose of our learning experiences. What we were hoping to have happen for students is they had the opportunity to practice previously taught skills to maintain their learning to date. We decided the best way to do that, given that they were home, that we would give them choice-based activities so that they would have a menu of sorts. And you can see that illustrated for you in the graph that the specialists put together in grades 2 through 6. And we really put together just some loose guidelines. Essentially what we wanted students to understand is that we didn't want them to spend more than 2 hours a day learning. We wanted them to pick and choose what they were interested in and what they felt they could practice more. And we wanted them to think a lot about balancing the time with family, learning, physical activity, and of course, any time in front of a screen. So if we can go to the next slide, I can give you just a little bit of a taste of what it looks like for the K-1 students. This is one of the choice boards for kindergarten in terms of English and math, and you can see they've done a fantastic job of isolating the skills that were taught in kindergarten to date in both English and math, and then providing different ways for them to practice them so that we were kind of attending to the multiple ways in which we learn. We were looking at kinesthetic learners, visual learners, and auditory learners. you move on to North Street and South Street, Laura, you can see the same. It's just a little bit of a different format. What we've done here is we've isolated the same types of skills. What have we taught? What is it important for students to remember going forward? And then we've given them some links and some ideas about how they can practice those particular skills. And last but not least, well, I'm sorry, and next would be Grafton Middle School. And again, I'm sorry about this doesn't seem to be very clear. I apologize for that. What you can see here is what the science department put together for grades 7 and 8. And this is actually a 4-page document. I couldn't take a picture of it, but that'll give you a sense of how many different activities they were able to develop and link. And then in the next slide is Grafton High School. And again, this is, I believe this might be US History 1. And again, this was 3 pages. I couldn't capture it all. But what I really want to help folks understand is to ask teachers to put together these types of learning experiences based almost overnight is really quite incredible. The scope of what they put together, the ways in which they've attended to different learnings is really, I'm floored by it. And I have communicated to them, and I will do so again now publicly, that I am so impressed and I stand in awe, and it is just a privilege to be a part of this school district.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
I agree. Okay. Is this back to Jay?
Yeah.
All right. So maybe before you start, I'll go do just another quick round of questions. Sorry if this is tedious, but Jen Conley?
I just kind of want to reiterate what everyone's probably already thinking. Just thank you to everyone, the staff, Dan for the food program, Whitson's for helping out, Tracy, everyone, just everything that they're doing, because it's so new to everyone. It's so difficult, and I just appreciate everything they're doing to try to make this the best experience that we can do to get through all this. So thank you.
Melissa?
Yeah, I guess I have to echo everything that Tracy and Jen just said, but what type of support is, this is a time that's extremely, anxiety producing for juniors who are thinking about where they're going to be applying next year. I see on the next slide state testing, but even more probably than state testing is things like SATs and ACTs and AP courses, and what kind of support is being given to students who are starting to think about all of their college applications, because this is, a really important time of year. That's got to be really tough.
Jay, would you like me to respond?
Sure.
So there's quite a bit of support. Sharon Buckley, who is our director of guidance and support services, has really done a fantastic job of pulling that team together and communicating quite frequently all the updated information and all the ways in which counselors should be reaching out to students in regards to all the concerns that you just mentioned, Melissa.
And can I add, an unexpert opinion is that every student in the entire country, I think, is pretty much going through the same boat, and colleges are too. So at least it's not like we're losing an edge in Grafton because we're suddenly closed down for 3 weeks and nobody else is, right? So I would expect that colleges would.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we do as good, if not better, a job than everybody else. When it comes to that. And I think it sounds like you've really got a handle on it. There's some things, of course, that are completely out of our control. Yeah, it's tough, but important.
Yep.
Anything else, Melissa? I'll take that as a no. Heather?
I would just say that the effort has been totally incredible. I have family members who are teachers in other districts, and these districts are very highly rated. And what you guys have pulled off in the last 2 weeks is actually beyond what any of those districts are even doing. So congratulations, unbelievable job, and just serious gratitude from I think everybody.
Thank you, Heather.
Tyler and James, I'm going to put you on the spot as active, probably students who are actively participating in the remote learning. If you have anything that you could add, that would be helpful, Tyler.
I know I've been reached out to, I think by, if not almost all, but every single teacher I have, both through About School, but then I know teachers have reached out to almost all of us individually, asking how we're doing, what they can do to help. So that has been absolutely amazing. I know I've taken time. I've done a couple of the things. I've focused on my AP classes right now, but for the most part, I've looked at all the assignments. I'm amazed about what they threw together in such a short time period. I know I've done a couple of the math things, a couple of the English things, and they've all been just helping me keep that edge. So I know already feel like I'm starting to lose a little bit. So those have been helpful, and I'm extremely grateful for all the work they put in.
Thanks. Do you have any questions too? I didn't mean to make you only talk about that.
I don't think so. Thank you, though.
All right, thank you. James?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate all that's being done and the assignments that I've been putting out there. There's a ton of variety. I've been through it, and during school, like, you wouldn't think that people would be going to do assignments while we're out of school, but most of the students I've talked to are definitely doing something. I've talked to some people today. They said they're reading books. I read a book today, and I went through some of the crash course videos of the history, and there's Khan Academy for math. It's good variety, and I appreciate that.
Great.
Glad to hear it. I will also, of course, echo what everybody said. I'm in awe, and in general, I think I'm glad that people are really showing their appreciation to our teachers who do this, are just amazing all throughout the year and have really even stepped up. And in the midst of their own having to stay at home with their own kids and deal with a stressful situation. So it's just so appreciated. And I just hope if anybody's watching, you know how much we care about you and appreciate you. I did have one question. I know that Bob sent out a communication today to everybody, but and how are we helping our students who might have different learning challenges or need different opportunities? And I know that's an ongoing process, but if you could give us maybe a special ed update. I know Bob isn't on the call, but Jay or Tracy.
So I can speak to it as of right now. So right now, what we're offering is simply enrichment activities.
Right.
We're not offering new content or skills. And so that allows students to simply build on what they already know. And then it helps so that we might not need to have the same type of modification or accommodation needed if we were presenting something new. I think that's essentially what Bob was trying to communicate.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
All right, and I think I'm gonna kick it back to Jay.
All right, well, that's a good segue. I could probably come up with 200 questions that are just out there, to be figured out, worked through, et cetera. Probably the two biggest ones are going to be that timeline and return, in what Tracy just spoke to, was that next iteration, going beyond remote learning, skills-based activities to moving forward. I can say it doesn't, well, maybe it helps a little bit in that we're in great company, and that every district in the state of Massachusetts is dealing with the exact same problem. We have countless emails, like literally hundreds a day, going back and forth trying to work through it. In terms of the timeline, I don't know any differently than you do. There's a great deal of, obviously, discussion and speculation about the April 7th being moved back, but whether that's, if it was moved back, is it moved back a couple weeks? Is it a couple months? Is it the rest of the year? I don't know, but that, once we have that information, it's going to help us backwards plan a lot of things. The second big piece is, again, that moving forward with instruction. And again, in essence, all Mass districts are on hold in terms of going beyond that skill-based remote learning. But to move everyone forward, the state has a Herculean challenge in front of it, in that it needs to navigate a host of equity issues. All of these play out in little old Grafton, but it's important, as I just quickly go over them, think of them in terms of a Worcester, a Lynn, Malden, what have you. More Boston for sure. More of the urban districts have the challenges we have, and they're multiplied greatly. The first, we touched on, that Wi-Fi access. Getting it actually addressed as a problem is going to be really tough. I tried to have a windshield replaced on my car. And it sounded easy enough, but as soon as I called, of course, 2/3 of their workforce is out, and they just couldn't get to it. I think we're going to find that challenge in front of us in terms of Wi-Fi access. Device access, there are many, many households that have numerous students and maybe one device. Sometimes that one device is shared with a parent who might be working from home when they typically wouldn't. The third thing, parent and caregiver access. As I was delivering the Chromebooks, I can't tell you how many, I bet you 50% of the families, when I went to the door, it was grandparents, and my hat goes off to them, and they had 3 or 4 of their grandkids they were kind of just in charge of and providing care for. That's a real challenge that you could think of if we were going to move forward, and you think of that idyllic 9 to 12 every day, you sit on the couch with mom or dad, and you're a 3rd grader and you work through a Zoom classroom with the teacher. Sounds great. Many, many of our students don't have that access, and having a 3rd grader by him or herself get on a device, navigate Zoom, and stay engaged, it's a real challenge statewide. And then that fourth thing, the fourth piece is meeting the needs of all learners. We have students with special needs, students that when we're in school, they have a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 support. We have English language learners that need constant support throughout their day. I should have touched on it and didn't when we talk about the parent and caregiver access and supports from the caregiver. Just today, I had a number of conversations, challenging conversations, if you will, to get them up and running with a Chromebook, where the parent basically didn't speak English. That's going to be a challenge, especially with our younger students. So those 4 major pieces across the state, that's huge. You may recall that we've talked about blizzard bags in the past. So basically, the state was looking at, if you just had a single day, say we had no school pretty much across the state, could we basically have remote learning for that one day? The state's been trying that for years and essentially has given up on that, if you will. There are a handful of districts piloting it, but it's never come to fruition, not because it's not a need and a want, because of all these challenges that I laid out. They can't even overcome, they couldn't historically overcome that for a 1 or 2 day period, never mind multi-month, without any planning. And those blizzard bags had a ton of planning. So the state and us are faced with a massive challenge if the decision is made to extend the closure and dive into, in terms of moving forward, what that looks like. We're going to give it our, if that's the task at hand, we're going to give it our very best, but it will be a tremendous challenge across the state. If we can get that far, obviously we'd have to work through grading and assessment, how that happens. Obviously it touched on access, and Bob Wall's done a really nice job. Just about every day I've been on conference calls with people at the state level and fellow superintendents, just trying to work through what seems like an endless number of questions that we're dealing with. Bob's been doing the same thing on the special education end of things, doing his best to get an understanding of how we are supposed to move forward, and then how do we actually put that in place. So there's a lot in flux across the board, and Tracy's certainly done that with the remote learning. So I think everybody's done a really nice job stepping up, and as a team taking it on. I can't believe we've only been doing remote learning for a week. It literally feels like a year. But I've loved the fact that we've worked so hard together, and I think we've done a pretty good job so far. And I'm anxious to get a little more definition from the state as we move forward, so we can make some decisions and dive into whatever direction it is that is set for us.
Great, thank you, Jay. And I did want to commend you, especially for all of your communication.
Oh, and my pleasure.
What I've learned in the past week and a half is that the more communication that we get or people get, the better. And I think you've been doing a great job keeping people posted and answering questions, and it's much appreciated. I'll go through questions for anything that Jay had. I know we have a lot of questions and there aren't a lot of answers, and I know that's hard, and I know that makes everybody feel a little more anxious. But I think that you can hear that there's a lot of conversations going on, and there's a lot of people out there trying to do the right thing for our kids. And it's just, this is new and it's not going to be solved overnight. And we're very much used to, as a society, getting things overnight, I think. Thanks, Amazon. So Jen Conley, do you have any questions?
No comment, all set, thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Maison?
No, I don't have any comments. I'd just reiterate what you're saying. And also, again, you know, what I said at the beginning is, as I understand it, if you were setting about to prepare online learning, that's something that would cost a lot of money and many years to do. And the fact that we have anything, let alone something that's pretty darn good, is amazing. So hats off.
Yeah. And I think people also see a lot out there from other districts on Facebook. And this district's doing this district's doing that. I think, again, we can't, first of all, you don't really know what's happening. And second of all, you know, they might be a district that has 5 or 6 curriculum developers. We have Tracy, who's been doing a bang up job. So we have to remember that the inequities we face all along in Grafton are all over, you know, they're showing up now too. We don't have one-to-one devices for everybody that a lot of districts do too. So our budget woes show up in this, I think, pretty loudly. And that's not to take away from the amazing work that we're doing, but I know it's very easy to go down that Facebook rabbit hole and think that other districts are doing more or less. And I think, Heather, you said it beautifully, that Grafton is actually doing really well, which is wonderful. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy. Sorry, I went on a tangent.
Everything everybody has already said, but I did have a question about, we planned for this, I shouldn't say we because I wasn't involved, but you planned for this to last through the closure that's been set by the governor, or by you first, Jay. Are there intentions to update the content as kids plow through it and run out of things to do, or are we not there yet?
Yep. Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Yes, so we plan to update weekly. Short and sweet. So on Friday, what I'll do is I'll send out an additional list of resources that teachers may use to create choice-based activities. I'm getting a ton of resources from our teachers, and obviously from vendors and everywhere you can think of at this point in time in my inbox. And so I'm just creating another set of resources. I'm going to share those with teachers, and they will spend Friday updating their choice activities. Still skill-based, still practice, just maybe some additional choices.
Will those replace what's up there now, or are we adding?
That's a great question, and the leadership team talked about that at length. What we're going to do is we're going to create brand new choice boards. So we'll keep the first one up. We might call it week 1 or something like that, and then post week 2. So if parents want to go back, they may certainly access those activities as they choose.
That's what I was hoping you were going to say. Thank you so much.
Heather?
I love that idea of the archive, just in case people were a little slow to the homeschooling game, not mentioning any names. But.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler?
All set. Thank you, though.
James?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. All right. I'll give anybody a last chance before we move on from remote learning, because we're going to go to our regular, kind of back to our agenda. Okay. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Tracy. I mean, I feel like we can't thank enough. And it seems like a little word, but it means a lot.
Oh, my pleasure.
Laura, hi. Can you hear me? It's Terry.
I can hear you. Hi, Terry.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Are you opening this up to community comment at all, or is it?
We are not tonight. You're
Okay.
certainly welcome to reach out via email. Just as I get used to this new format, it was a little too much for me today.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry. I can write to Jay offline. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. Nice to see you, Terry.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So future agenda schedule planning. All right. Anybody have anything? We're going to take this, I think, on a week-to-week basis on what we need to update. Obviously, we kind of we were supposed to have updates from, I believe, Millbury Street tonight. Hopefully, we might be able to get back to those when we move on to kind of back to maybe a regular schedule. And we're going to keep updates on the coronavirus and the remote learning. And as we know more, we'll do that. But does anybody have anything pressing that they want to add to or in 2 weeks? No. Oh, I should go one by one. Jen?
No comment.
Melissa?
I don't have anything at this time, but thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Amy?
Nope, I'm good.
Heather?
I'm all set.
Terry? Tyler?
All set. Thank you.
James?
I'm all set, thanks.
All right, excellent. And now we have approval minutes. We have a minute that has been floating around. For some reason, we haven't been able to approve it from February 11th. So I'm finally going to approve it. I'll need a vote to approve that.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from February 11th as written.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, we need to do a roll call vote. Laura Often, aye. Jen Conley?
Jen Connolly, aye.
Melissa Maison?
Melissa Maison, aye.
Amy Marr?
Amy Marr, aye.
Heather Riley?
Heather Riley, aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0. And then we have 1 more minute, please. Oh, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay. From March 10th.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from March 10th as written.
Sorry, I actually had something in these minutes that just jumped out at me. It was back in the section where I'd asked Jay about defining equity in education. And I think that it was either mischaracterized or just maybe a wrong word written, because it seemed as though it pertained to the employees and how they were fairly treated. And I just want to clarify, Jay, I don't think that's what you were trying to say. And if we just change the phrase to how everyone is treated, I think it would solve it.
Yep, I totally agree. I'll talk with Debney and we'll just bring that back in 2 weeks.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Heather. Good catch. Did anybody else have any concerns about these minutes? Okay, thank you. All right. Next, we have 2 things. We have a warrant for approval. Thank you, Dan. I'll take a motion whenever you're ready. Hello.
I'm bringing it up, sorry. I have it open, I just have to
Oh,
find.
sorry. I can't see. I lost everybody, and I can only see Jay. Then I stopped sharing my screen. All right.
Okay, I move the school committee approve the warrant number 39 dated March 26th, 2020 in the amount of $455,710.53.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Amy Marr, seconded by Jen Conley. I'll take a roll call vote. Laura Often. Any further discussion? Sorry. Okay. Hearing none. Roll call vote. Laura Often. Aye.
Jen Connolly, aye.
Amy.
Amy Marr, aye.
Melissa.
Melissa Maison, aye.
Heather.
Heather Riley, aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and next, I'm going to bring this back to Dan. We have to vote on a solar lease. Dan, can you give us a quick update on this?
Yes. We've previously signed a lease for the high school for solar on the roof at the high school, and this one is for the Millbury Street School. And the company is ready to go for that. They're waiting for some final approval from National Grid, but we wanted to get this signed so that they're ready to go once they get the okay from National Grid. And this is for them to put solar panels on the roof of the Millbury Street School. it's going to be on the roof and also some on the metal roof on top of the gym. So I emailed a motion for the vote, and there's a couple small things we have to iron out with them. So the vote would just be to allow Jay to negotiate the final things and then sign on behalf of the committee. So the details of it is they would pay us around, it's not actually finalized, that's one part that's not finalized, but should be around $20,000 per year that they would pay us for the use of the roof. And I can answer any questions that anybody has about that, about the lease.
Thanks, Dan. Jen, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Melissa, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Laura.
Amy, any questions?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Heather, any questions?
I just have a quick question about how the number is arrived upon. Can you just give a little bit of clarity about how 20,000 is deemed a kind of market rate or fair market rate?
Yeah, so it's based on what the company, so we went out to bid for, to choose the company. So out of all the companies that bid, we had several bids, and this company came in as the kind of the highest bid to give us the most amount of money for doing the solar. So, and they base the amount of money they can give us based on the incentives that they can get from the state. And those incentive programs change every year, and they're in a waiting list right now to get approved for, it's like called the SMART program. And they have certain blocks, and they're hoping to get into, I think it's block 8 or 9. So they you know, were the highest bidders. So we went with that. That's how we kind of determined the best amount of money we could get by going with the bid.
Thank you.
James, Tyler, any questions? Tyler?
I'm all set. Thank you, though.
James?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to need a vote to approve and authorize the superintendent to sign the notice of lease for the Millbury Street Elementary School. So Dan had sent over the wording, if somebody could make the motion.
I move the school committee vote to approve and authorize the superintendent to sign the notice of lease for the Millbury Street Elementary School as presented, and the first amended and restated rooftop solar site lease agreement for the Millbury Street Elementary School as presented, provided, however, that the superintendent is requested and authorized to negotiate a term to include a minimum amount of annual rent to be inserted in Section 3, and to negotiate revisions to Exhibit B concerning insurance requirements, such that revised the terms and conditions are deemed acceptable to the Grafton Public Schools in the sole discretion of the superintendent.
Second.
All right, motion made by Amy Marr, seconded by Jen Conley. We'll need a roll call vote. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laura Often, aye. Jen Conley?
Jen Connolly, aye.
Melissa Maison?
Melissa Maison, aye.
Amy Marr?
Amy Marr, aye.
Heather Riley?
Heather Riley, aye.
Motion made and carried. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And thank you, Dan, for working on this solar. It's wonderful. So for correspondence, I received something directly before this meeting. I haven't had a chance to review or send over, so I'm going to hold off on reading it out loud. It was literally like as I was logging into this. So we'll pass on that. I haven't received anything else. We don't need to go into an executive session, so I will. Wow, we are right on time at 8 o'clock. Love these virtual meetings. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, great. I don't know. I'm going to just do a roll call vote, I suppose. Laura Often, aye. Jen Conley?
Jen Connolly, aye.
Amy?
Amy Marr, aye.
Melissa Maison?
Melissa Maison, aye.
All right. Heather?
Heather Riley, aye.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Reach out if you have any questions, and please, everybody be well, be safe, be kind, and take care of yourselves. Good night, Grafton.